Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Q7 podcast for May. I am so excited to have Anne-Marie McManus with us today. Anne-Marie is not only a longtime client, she's a dear friend and just someone that if you have the pleasure of knowing Anne-Marie, it's like a ray of sunshine in your life. So Anne-Marie, I am so happy to welcome you. Would you introduce yourself and tell everyone where you live and where you work?
So I'm Anne-Marie McManus, and I work with Meybohm Real Estate here in Augusta, Georgia, and love the timing. I got the call around the Masters golf tournament, so that was pretty neat, and I feel honored. I listened to the podcast and learned so much from outstanding women, so I feel just tickled to be here.
Well, thank you. And you know what? I have to say, like, as I started this, Mike said to me, what is it that you're trying to accomplish with this podcast? And I actually said to him, honestly, I am just enjoying the conversation I'm having with these women because they're just amazing people. And if somebody can learn something from that, all the better. So I am very much looking forward to my time with you. And I'm going to start right away by saying, what does your average day look like?
So my average day, uh, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I wake up and every morning I just say St. Patrick's breastplate when I wake up. It's a prayer and it's almost like a sun salutation. It's just, I arise today through the strength of heaven, light of the sun, radiance of the moon, and so on. And you pray and you think about God being with you, and that's a great way to jump out of the bed. And then I get on, go over to my exercise class, and I get to cross over the bridge and the Savannah River into South Carolina. And
Wow.
so you get to see the moon shining over the river, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And this today it was a full moon, and the sun was just following me all the way up the hill to the family Y.
It's amazing. Just as you say that, I thought to myself, oh, it was a full moon and that I hadn't recognized that. And so many times we miss the beauty that is around us because we're so busy. And when you just said that, I'm thinking already, you have to take that moment of just slowing down and being aware of what is around you. So
Yes.
that's a lesson right in itself.
Well, and I got that from, I think, Laura, or it wasn't Veronica, but anyway, on one of the podcasts, when you talked to her about what she did for stress, she walked out, you know, Firenze or just in the beautiful Italian town and just looked at the architecture and that. So I decided after that I was going to be intentional in that way because I'd always try to have the perfect morning routine, morning miracle, and I would say, "Oh, I got to meditate." Well, what better way to meditate than to just have nothing on, no podcast, nothing, but just listening to the sounds of the morning and looking out the window as you just drive through your beautiful city.
What a great way to start the day. So you go and you work out first, then what do you do?
So then I come home and I have been lately, prospecting from home. So breakfast, get ready, and so I just immediately helps me to just lunge right in and get on the phone, get that power hour done, and you know, sometimes if I'm talking to past clients, it might take 2 hours, but just touch base with everybody. And I call the expireds, which I love, and then just it's still very, very fun for me, even after 41 years, because I know, I like the art of real estate. I like, the technique of it.
That's an interesting comment, the art of real estate, because, as you were saying, like, you genuinely sound like you enjoy talking to people every day. And I thought, Wow, I know there's so many people who struggle with that. How did you get to the point where it's the art of real estate? Was it always that way for you?
No, not really. And really it was just, kind of in '09. I kept going. My oldest one was going to college, and of course the market wasn't good. And I started going to the prospecting clinics, and I loved the live prospecting clinic. It was almost like it's great for an expressive. So you actually stayed in the hotel. They actually had a bus that took you. So there was breakfast, then get on the bus, then
Yep.
go. And we just one time I remember we my I brought my assistant at the time, and the two of us made 45 appointments
Wow.
during the 2 days, and we were very highly motivated. But it wasn't till later, really, at that time, I started embracing really the scripts. I I thought I knew how to. Oh, I don't have to, but I realized the disservice I was doing to people just winging it. So
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny because Mike will talk about that in the sense that if you're not following a script, it's so easy to get off track and like all of a sudden you're talking about something you don't even know why you're talking about and you can't bring it back so it just ends in a way that you didn't want it to end. So,
yeah.
do you do 2 hours of prospecting every day or do you do it by contacts?
Well, I really getting in it is hard for me to get even 10 calls in an hour. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot to, you know, talk to people about specific properties and different things. So, again, I'm, always striving to keep those numbers going just because applies a little discipline. But I would say, I definitely, sometimes it might take an hour to do lead follow-up.
Okay.
Sometimes it's been so productive that you've got a list and you got to get going. So it flexes a little bit.
So, do you find that your day is spent mostly either prospecting and talking to people or going on appointments? And it sounds like that's kind of how your day breaks down now instead of, prospect for a certain amount of time, then I do this and then I do that and then I do this.
Fortunately, yes, fortunately, I have learned to surround myself with people that are so much better at doing so many things that is involved in the real estate business that I'm not good at. And I'm good at connecting people, and I'm good at going on my appointment. I know what to say. I know how to help them. It's kind of neat because we often talk, well, what are we gonna, how many years are we gonna do this? And I think about Kathy Anderson's quote. So how good can you get before you finish?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where I am now, to see how good can I get. And I really think, oh my gosh, I'm just starting to learn how to do this. So
That is a great thought. And yes, Kathy was an amazing coach and just an amazing person who really lived her life that way as well. But how good can you get before you stop? And I've watched so many people who, as they get older, they just sort of start using that excuse of, oh, I'm going to start slowing down instead of looking at and saying, how good can I get? So I love that. Let me ask you, what is the biggest obstacle that you face in a day?
well, distractions. I mean, I'm expressive, and I mean, I invite distraction. That's why I really started saying I have great people at the office who can handle the business. And if I don't get this, what the way I think about it is, your power hour. I've got to stoke the engine in the morning,
Yeah.
and if I don't do that, then we're not going to do as well as we could. And so, back to it, I don't really, fortunately, it's not like I'm learning to relax. I'm learning to take time off. I'm learning to enjoy the art of it, and there's a skill set into being able to surround yourself with good people. Make sure, the reason I couldn't relax before, I wanted good people to take care of my people. Now I
Yeah.
work with good people, and So it's a natural thing, and they grow every time I'm gone.
That's a great thing to learn. And yes, you have now found those people who can support you and do the things that you're not good at. So that obviously takes a weight off. And I know there are a lot of people watching who's like, how do you find those people? Because it's a challenge.
And it's constant, and I never really realized that's okay
Yeah,
because sometimes it just doesn't work or it's not. But I kind of look at it now as I'm kind of helping develop people.
good.
And
It's
that's,
also funny because it reminds me of something Mike always has told us is that you find what you look for. When the attitude is, oh, it's so hard, well, you're going to find hard times to find people. If you believe that the right people come your way, they seem to come your way. So I know your family is super important to you. How do you manage your overall life? Because you have beautiful children. I believe all are now married. Is that right?
no, 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 just two of them.
Two of them.
The
But,
other
and you
three.
have, so how many are married? How many are not?
So two are married. My son actually lives 2 blocks from me with his two children, and then I have one daughter in Atlanta, married and has her first has Ruthie now, and we're expecting, and she's going to have another baby in May. So, and then the other kids are just very, they have developed the way they were supposed to, and I had to learn a lot on the way, but it's absolutely beautiful to see how they are wonderful people,
Yeah.
you know,
How many kids do you have altogether?
5.
Five.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So, wow. I had enough with two. And it was funny. I have a dear friend who recently was telling me about her teenage daughter and saying, oh my goodness. And all I could think of was, I'm so grateful my two kids have grown up and they're just wonderful human beings. And what a blessing that is.
Yes.
So, obviously you went through the challenge of having a young family. You've been in real estate for 41 years. You've kind of seen the whole gamut of going from having children to having young children to having teenagers, then to having grown children. It all changes. How do you keep the balance going in your business?
Well, you're learning all the time, and I was talking to a friend of mine in the commercial business. Coincidentally has 5 kids too, and we were just talking about how he records his calls and his little, you know, he's got like a little report card for himself. And I was saying used to have a report card with, for my whole schedule, the mom. And, I didn't always get an A for sure, but I had certain things like, the kids will laugh. They thought about this, but I would give myself an A if I got 5 minutes early to pick them up or something like that, just that helped. And then I think there's a lot of things out there. I love to be, growing and learning, and boy, will kids teach you a lot.
No kidding, right?
Yeah.
So, like I know that you also have a passion for helping women in real estate, especially young moms and people who are trying to get started. What would be one piece of advice you would give to a mother with young children who is in real estate?
Well, first of all, what my dad told me right away when I got into real estate, he said, don't forget, you'll get there, which is you just have to be reminded of that. And the comparison is the thief of joy. But I just had bigs that were around me when I was growing up in my real estate household. And my first year out, I wanted to be them, you know,
Yeah.
and he was just like, it's gonna come. And I've learned the skills, you develop the skills, and you also got to be willing to wait. There's a season. There's a season for everything. But if you're perfecting your trade in the time that you have, then nobody can take that away from you, and you don't have to buy big billboards. You don't have to do any kind of things that are going to put your family under financial strain, or you're learning your craft, you're getting better at it. I actually felt like at times I was really efficient when I would, after I would take somebody to preschool and I knew I was going to pick them up in 3 hours, and boy, you get a whole lot done. And then, I mean, it certainly wasn't perfect by any means, but the Mike Ferry system, knowing that there was a technique, like my background was ballet beforehand, and I thought this makes sense to me because so in ballet, you take your little girl to ballet, she does tendu, she does plie, she does that year in, year out. And the prima ballerinas, they go and they have their power hour, and they stand at the bar and they practice their technique. It's the same movements. It's just that when you're at that high level, you are, you just are soaring. It
It's
is
so
fun.
funny, isn't it? Because skill is something no one can take away from you. And that is a really great point that I've gotten out of what you have said. So, the time you invest in skill and developing your own abilities can't be taken away from you. There's so many magic answers out there. For a while it was all social media, then it was all AI, and it's always
Yeah.
going to be something. I loved you made a quick comment about the thief of joy. I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that. Explain that comment to me.
Now the comparison, we've heard that. I don't know where I originally heard it. I just like everything. I took it from somebody, but we loved it, and it's awesome. I had four girls and one boy, and I mean, you just have to be mindful. That is really one of the it's the devil's way to get you. Just to compare, and in your own office, if you're comparing yourself, and you're going to be, it's not good. It steals your joy. The comparison is the thief of joy. I just have heard that, and
Well,
it's
and I
really
think
true.
there's a lot to be said for that. A lot of people nowadays will scroll through social media and think everybody's life is better
Yeah.
when behind the scenes you would see something very, very different. So I
Yeah.
like that. Be aware of the thief of joy. Like, what is taking your joy from you? And if it's comparison, that's a great one to stop. So I like that. So, what is one thing that really makes a difference for you?
So in for something that makes a difference for me in regard to
Just
work,
your
or
business, your how you approach a day. Because I think I guess I said this when we started, you're sort of like this ray of sunshine that just comes in. How do you make that happen?
well, it's like the energy, and I feel like another expression we have in our house is exercise and prayer can get you through a lot.
Yeah.
And it just gives you perspective, and you sweat it out, either you work it out. I mean, um work's not a dirty word. It really, when I think about the things trials that you come through, my parents' illnesses and things that were, very difficult, and and it's like patting your head and rubbing your stomach, sort of, with raising children. I think it was that you get that balance. And we talk about nobody's ever perfectly balanced, but you have to balance. And one of the ways to stay balanced, like riding a bike, is just keep going, keep pedaling. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not, it's
Actually, I
that's
think that's a really good piece of advice. And a bicycle is that perfect example. It's a great metaphor. If you stop pedaling and you're still just sitting on the bike, you're going to fall over. So if you want to keep things going, the best way is to keep moving forward, keep trying, keep going toward a goal. And I think that's probably a really great piece of advice, because bottom line is every day brings something. It's
yeah,
it's how we react to that and how we move forward with that. And no one ever said the day was going to be perfect, but you can either work it out or pray it out and just keep focused on having that day.
Yeah, and keeping it between the lines. That's probably one of the most valuable things that I learned from Mike Ferry. It was what?
Yeah.
Because your
You
emotions,
can control your
you
emotions.
can control your emotions. You're kidding me. Now, nobody around me would even believe that I have deeply incorporated in that my life, but it's true.
So that would lead me right into overwhelm. How do you handle when you are overwhelmed with 5 kids, with everything else going on, with just the normal pace of life? How do you handle overwhelm?
Well, for me, it's like I got to get a cup of tea. I'm sorry. Everybody, I'm going to put the kettle on. Or, if I'm at the office, I'm running in there with my mug and I'm, I'm
That
boiling the
means she's
water.
overwhelmed.
And so just you have to hold the teacup, you feel the warmth, you have to breathe a little bit, you have to make sure you have to be a little patient, make sure you don't burn yourself. You just can't chug a cup of tea. And then, another thing is I love to listen like Andrea Bocelli. I love to put him on in the car or in the kitchen and then just belt it out and pretend like I'm doing a duet with him or something, something wild. That's helpful. And then if I'm super overwhelmed, gosh, my mom taught me this. So I'd come in the door and I'd have all the kids and she'd say, go, go jump in the bed and take a nap. And I would. So that's a great thing too. Just sometimes you just need to get a reset. All of a sudden you're like, okay, let me
Yeah.
at it.
Well, you bring up a really great point. We have become such a 24/7 world that we forget that we also need the rest and we need to reset and we need to unplug for a period of time. And I think that is a super important thing that we all need to look at. I had an opportunity of talking with another agent a little while ago, and he said to me, whenever I feel overwhelmed, I know I need to simplify.
That's a good one.
Isn't that a good thought?
That's
And
a
it was,
very good one.
for me, it's sort of like every 14 minutes, I guess I need to
Yeah.
simplify. But that is one of those things that you look
Yeah.
at and just simply say, slow down. It's going to be okay. And with 5 kids that you had and working and doing all this other stuff, like sometimes I just think we don't even realize how much we do in a day.
Yeah. And you don't have, this is one thing about working with bringing people in and one of the things that I learned by teaching, but you just, if they're overwhelmed, we say, okay, well, what are your top 3 things?
Mm-hmm.
And then, they need to tell me their top 3 things. And then I have to tell them my top 3 things. Like, that's just great because you've really got 303 things in your head. And you just
Yeah.
say, okay, this is, these are the top 3. And, you know,
And then you focus on those, get those done, and
get them done. And you feel great because then
yeah,
you've said, okay, this is what I need to do. And it's okay if it's one thing.
yeah,
Get it out
I
of the
know,
way.
right? Yeah, that was a management book that Mike had always recommended. And in it, it said, pick 3 things the night before that you have to do the next day. Work to get those done and only those done. Like if you get more, great, but you have to get those 3 things done. And suddenly you will see how much you can accomplish.
Yeah.
So, how do you work on your mindset?
Well, it's constant. But one of the things is Ann Baker, my current coach, just reminded me, okay, it's like if you wait until you're thirsty to drink water, it's too late. So you have to have the habits, keep drinking water, then if you know the first inkling, it's a habit. And I don't watch the news ever, thanks to, learning that a long time ago, because we can't control the interest rates, we can't control the
Yeah,
politics. I don't watch it. And then, if there's something coming, I believe people will tell me, you know.
they will.
Um,
I'll guarantee it.
they get, yeah, they will tell me, and um so that's probably one of the biggest things. And then putting good stuff in. That's one thing that Mike taught so many of us is be a lifelong learner, have your planned um, system of learning. And I just by my bed I have three different books. They're all very peaceful. And you know the Pope's new book about peace. There's a book about beautiful home um, decorating, and that it's just something lovely to go to sleep.
What a great thought. So you go to bed with beautiful thoughts in your head versus the Harry Carey that the rest of us can do at times of, whoa, I didn't get enough done today.
Well, but now they're going to bust me on that if my kids ever hear this, because I also have a habit. I have a real problem, but I look for comedy. And I love to just that again, that's something that we talked about so many years. Just I like to laugh if I can't really find something. And I do go to social media to look at that. But
Well, and sometimes you can find funny things. It's
oh
interesting because
yeah.
I've noticed that I will too once in a while. And if you stop on something funny, it feeds you more funny. If you stop on other things, then it feeds you more of that. So if
Yeah,
you're
the
wondering if,
garbage.
yes. So if you're wondering if social media is bringing you down, it's because that's what you're getting stuck on. So I would tell you that Mike sits in the house many, many evenings in a room by himself, laughing, and I will come around the corner and he is watching some YouTube video of someone like Rodney Dangerfield
Yeah.
or Johnny Carson or any of those old entertainers, and he will laugh and laugh and laugh. And I have to admit, it has actually made me laugh just looking at him laughing.
Yeah.
So, I how I see you and what I've gotten out of this interview, and I started with you're like a ray of sunshine, but I've also gotten you will listen to music, you look for beauty, you try and put positive into your life. We've got about 2 minutes left. What is the one piece of advice that you would give everyone who listens to this and watches this?
Oh wow. And that's the one thing I'm like, oh, you know, can I advise anyone except I'd say for young, for, we talk a lot about young moms and the business and everything, just how important it is to, I mean, um, watch the ego, because the great thing about real estate is it gives you this vehicle for achievement. And, but if it can be something very damaging too. And that's something that, of course, that's a Mike Ferry thing, ego, watch out for the ego. And then also that it's a business, you know, real estate's a business, and you have to, if you're going to have a beautiful boutique and you want people to come, you have to have inventory. So that's why I'm still calling expireds and for sale by owners, and calling my database and saying, when do you plan on moving? Because I love to have beautiful homes that people want to see. And that might not be the one, but we'll find them, something. So I think those are two, I don't even know if that's that profound, but those two
Well,
things.
I will tell you, I think what was profound is that you started off by, I'm not even sure if I should give advice. And yet we all see the outside. So we look at that and say, if I can become a little bit more the sunshine that you are, I would love that. I thought your comment about the ego was really interesting because that can creep in, and humility is a great thing. And you are, it's just been a lovely experience to have you be part of this. And as you know, we always start on time, we end on time. And you, Anne Marie, have brought some sunshine into all of our lives. Thank you so much. See
Well,
you
thank you
all
for
next
having me.
time. Bye,
Yeah.
everybody. Thanks, Anne
Bye-bye.
Marie.